Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host Holly Wharton. Ready to Bloom helps heart-centered women entrepreneurs to overcome their fears, blocks and limiting beliefs so they can be more successful in business. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute to leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more we can help women in business. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 79. This is your host Holly Wharton and I'm here with today's very special guest, Fifi Mills. Fifi is an intuitive and channel who works with female business owners to deepen their self-relationship and raise their vibration in order to find success in all aspects of their life. She's just about to launch a new program, Get Glowing, Get Going, this February to help women do just that. Welcome, Fifi.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to speak with you today.
Yay!
So tell us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today.
So it's all been very recent that I would say that I've had a business. There's been a few years of playing in business, let's say it that way. So I got into the blog world and there were really inspiring women in there doing some amazing stuff. But really it was the business side of the blogging that I was interested in, like how I could make this work for me so I could travel the world and I could do all this amazing stuff. And at the time I was 21, so it was like, ooh. And a lot has changed in the last couple of years. I started a business with my sister, which completely didn't work. And then I moved on to the blogging. And then I started to get into personal development. And then I'd say in the last 6 months, my spiritual side started to scream and be like, why are you ignoring me? And I delved into that. And it's been really fast paced. Since February last year, meeting one particular person who's my best friend now. And it's just like blown up. It really has. And I've just gone with it. And I think that's the really important thing is I've just gone with it.
Now, you mentioned on your website that you were really into fantasy novels and magic and things like that as a child. So do you think that kind of helped you tap into your spiritual side at all? Or was this a very, very new thing for you getting in touch with your spiritual parts?
Yeah. And I would say I kind of squashed it when I went to university, and I believed that this side of me was geeky and weird, and I didn't embrace it at all. And I would only ever read my novels when I went home from university, and I'd sit down with one of my books and be like, oh, I just need to read this. And it really was my way. It was my only outlet for this spiritual world, and I didn't believe it was real, that it could exist in this world. I always thought of it as, the whole fantasy side of things. But the more I've learned about spirituality, the more I've realized that the things that were happening and the themes that were happening in these novels are completely true to our world that we're in, and we just need to explore the boundaries aren't there. We just need to explore what we can do in this world. So yeah, big learning curve.
And so once you started feeling this spiritual side kind of stirring in you and screaming at you to pay attention to it, what was it that helped you actually pay attention to that and develop that side of you?
I had a few people that have come into my life over the last year who totally just own this stuff. And it shocked me because I come from a background where my mother and father don't really agree with religion, as my mother had a very bad childhood being brought up half Catholic, half Jehovah's Witness. So obviously all this conditioning I had that this stuff shouldn't be talked about, because I still have a Jehovah's Witness side of my family who don't believe in any of this. So this whole coming out of the closet thing, the spiritual closet or the broom closet, has been quite difficult for me. But these couple of people who just stood there and were like, this is me in my full power and this is what I believe, completely blew my mind. And I was like, wow, I want to feel like that about this. And they had such belief in me. And I did a lot of past life work with one lady in particular, you might know, and she told me who I'd been in past lives and what I'd done in past lives. And I just went, what am I doing? Like, why am I ignoring this? It's obviously something that is my soul's gift. So I have to just own this.
Excellent. So what would you say are the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as you've built your business with the spiritual side in mind?
I suppose it's the people in my real life, I suppose you could call it, being open with them. And even today, I had like an episode with that on Facebook, and I was just like, oh, I've just outed myself. And it still comes up. Yeah, it's just, I'm absolutely fine to talk about this stuff with potential clients and other women entrepreneurs that come into my life and want to talk about this. But when it comes to talking to my university friends or childhood friends, or sometimes even my family, I find it very difficult to do. Yes.
So would you say that there was maybe a tipping point in your business where things went from struggling to flow? And did that have anything to do with tapping into the spirituality?
Yes. When I knew more about my past lives, I literally just made that decision, and then I couldn't ignore it. And I'd already done a workshop where I'd connected to my guides. And literally after the energy of that session with the past life stuff, I couldn't get rid of this guide, one particular guide. And she's just like with me all the time, chatting away to me. And I, not that I want to get rid of you, looking around me, don't go. But I just thought, I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to see what she has to say. I'm going to follow her advice for once. And I didn't just go, oh, it's 11:11 on the clock. Weird. And I didn't just go, I'm going to listen to Olga. I muscle tested, and I used lots of different tools, and I read my cards, and I had to keep testing what she was saying. And the more I learned to trust her, the easier things became, and flow and clients and money and everything that you want your business to be, just that's what happened.
So could you tell us a little bit more about your guides? I mean, I'm at a point in my life where I totally get what that means, and I've connected with mine, but not a very long time ago, I had no idea what that was, and that there were guides that were in my life that could help me. So could you explain a little bit about who they are and how they can help us?
Yeah, so it's all very different for everyone, obviously. We are not the only sort of beings in this world. We live in a third dimensional world, and there are many dimensions above us. And they are all around us, spirit, I suppose. And some are angels, you could call them. Some are spirit. It's really hard because everyone believes different things. So this could work for someone who's extremely Christian in religion and think of angels, or it could work for someone who is into the more witchy stuff and think of, spirit guides. I don't resonate with the word witch, but I do resonate with the idea of having spirit guides. And I would just not want to put any names, or it's hard. You don't want to put things into a box because that doesn't work with this sort of thing. It's just what it is to you is right. So when I went to a workshop and I met 3 of my guides, I have one was my totem spirit animal, who is an octopus called the King. Oh, it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. When I met him, I literally was just laughing my head off. And I don't use him so much at the moment. I've got a guide who is an angel, I believe. And when I did the workshop, I was told that this was my gatekeeper, which is someone that comes and helps me. But other people don't believe that. And I'm not so sure about the gatekeeper status. And I don't use him so much because she, I don't know, it's androgynous, doesn't really have, just is a really powerful guide, and it's kind of a bit scary to tune into them. So the one that I always go back to is Olga, and she is very earthy, so it makes a lot more sense for me when I speak to her. I can see her almost in my mind's eye. I just sort of tune in when I need to and chat to her, and everyone has this ability, and it's just trusting. So and you can even just call it your intuition, your inner voice. So when you have a question and you say it to your head, it's just differentiating between ego speaking and this sort of higher self speaking to you.
And I think that can be really, really challenging.
Yes, and it is, and it's something that I am with my program that I'm bringing out, and I'm doing some testing with some women at the moment. That is the biggest theme that's coming up, is how they can tune into these guides and differentiate between when it's fear speaking and when it's love speaking. And you can literally just call it fear and love, and always try and lean towards that loving voice.
Yeah, I think it can be really challenging to kind of tap into those guides, or your intuition, or whatever the word you'd like to use, and recognize that I don't even know how to say this. I mean, but it's like when I talk to my guide, I hear a different voice in my head. And I feel like it's someone else that's speaking to me. But then I think, oh my God, I'm hearing voices in my head. You know, if I were to say this to anyone else, they would think I was crazy.
We all have voices in our head. Let's not lie. And I actually have one client that said, well, yeah, when I hear ego, it's like coming at me. It's like coming from elsewhere at me. But when I hear my guide or my heart, sometimes people say it's their heart speaking, it actually literally comes from my chest. It comes from within me. And it's just about feeling what feels right for each particular person. I do one of the weeks in my program is all about testing this out. What is your guide? How do they speak? I suppose we do a lot of anchoring into certain feelings because some people don't hear, they feel, and it's very different for everyone. And that's the problem with the intuitive work, is that you just have to go with it.
And just kind of trust that it's working and that you can do this.
Yeah, it's that release and letting go, and it's like the biggest lesson if you want to work with this stuff and to follow your intuition, is just to let go of all outcomes of your expectations and just see what the truth is. And it's really hard, but once you've got it, it just opens up so many doors. And I said it's really hard, and I hate the word hard. I don't think anything has to be hard. But,
it's challenging.
Yeah, I would say people will make it harder than it has to be because it seems so unrealistic, and it's not in our 3D world. We can't feel it or touch it or affect it, I suppose.
And it's also just not part of the mainstream life. I mean, I think it's still very, very few people who are tapping into this. And so it's not something that, you know, most people feel comfortable talking about with everyone in their lives.
Yes, I know. And that's what I was saying earlier about this, you know, outing yourself almost to people. But I think once it's done, it's done. And whether or not they believe it, that's up to them. But I've noticed, especially with my mother, the more I talk about it, the more she's getting into it and saying things like, oh, you know, I can have a tarot reading and that sort of thing. It's like, wow. And the more that we shine and the more that we just be who we are and accept it, you'll realize that everyone else is coming with us, sort of raising their vibration as well, and getting to this level of, like maybe not so much tapping into their guides, but starting to think about how they could have crystals around their home, like little things like that might help them to raise their vibration. So I think it's important for us.
Yes, it is. So how do you use these resources to work with women in business?
So this is really new, and I started with tarot readings, and I hate calling them tarot readings, but it's just such a great resource to use the cards because people are really good at tapping into the visual stuff. So if I showed you a card and I asked you to read it, you're more likely to be able to say, oh, well, you know, I can see some birds, and that might mean, you know, that I'm about to take off and fly, or oh, a butterfly, that's the symbol of transformation. And people find it a lot easier to tap in using the visual aid of the cards. So I do spreads, and Olga helps me, my guide helps me to create new spreads, and I've just created a new one I'm really excited about. But that's a secret, top secret. That's coming out much later in the year. And what I do is, the main thing I started doing was business alignment readings, actually only in December, so not long ago. And people went mad for it. And I didn't think that I would be that good, because we never think that we're that good at stuff. But I was, and people got so much from it. And I just used the cards so obviously we have a spread and they have different positions. So you'll have something like, what's your strength this year? And what card should you embody the energy of this year? And whenever you're struggling, who should you come back to and who should you step into? So if you had someone like the Queen of Swords as your energy card, you can use that to tap in and say, okay, I need to be more honest and I need to be more truthful about who I am, which is actually the perfect card for this conversation. That's sort of what I was doing to start with. And then I thought, well, how can I actually make this transformation stick? Because people, they'll have this amazing reading, they'll get their vibration really high, they'll go away and they'll do loads and loads and loads of stuff in a week. And then they'll be like, oh, what next?
It's like the magic wears off a little bit.
Yeah, and so I thought, I'm going to start a 4-week course that I can not only get people's vibrations high and help them to really see what their purpose is in the world, but that they can also learn a bit about how to do this themselves. So that I'm not just leaving them cold and they don't have to keep coming back to me every 6 months or every 3 months to be like, oh, I'm unaligned again, fix me. Because it's not that. I think people have this ability and they don't need to be going to other people all the time, although come see me. But I really believe that it's such an invaluable tool to be able to tap into your guides or your intuition, however you want to see it. And that is what I want to give people within this. So we do a 4-week. Each week has a spread. Sometimes it's not as big as others. The last week, nobody knows what's going to happen in, because it's like tying up the loose ends. And it's the funnest one, I think, because it's going to be just like, what we're going to do. But it's basically finding out what your real purpose is with your soul and where you are with it now and how you should be expressing that. Then aligning to that essence is the second week, and really getting like aligned to that energy and not freaking out about, oh, I've got this big job to do. And then the third week is the testing and the intuitive integration of getting to know your guide. And then the last week, like I said, is who knows? Tying it all up, making sure you're all set and ready to go off into the world and do your thing beautifully.
Excellent. And so after working with you for these 4 weeks, people are really kind of stuck in the place, in a good way, stuck in the place where they they're in that high vibration.
Testing it at the moment. I'm in the coming up to the 3rd week, so I can't say yet. And it's all very exciting, and I'm really hoping that vibration will stay high and they'll be able to keep buoying it, I suppose, keep coming back to the tools that we've learned and taught them, and just to keep it high, which is something I just am good at. So I just thought, well, I'll share this with people.
Excellent. So what would you say are your top tips on how people can tap into their intuition so that they can really make magic in their business?
Well, I think the number one is what we discussed about the ego and the fear and the love voices. I think that is a muscle that really needs to be built up, and you'll soon feel like ego doesn't really get into the conversation anymore, because the love and your guides are just so powerful that it doesn't even contemplate listening to that crappy little voice on your shoulder, the little devil over there. So that would be sort of number one. And there's a brilliant interview between Oprah and Elizabeth Gilbert, if anyone wants to go and watch that at some point, which talks about that and how to deal with those voices and to move towards this voice, which Elizabeth Gilbert calls grace, or some would call God. So that would be my number one. It really depends on people. I often get with clients that they need to be celebrating the little things. I think people go, right, I've done that. What's the next thing? And they just move on, and they don't actually say, I've actually achieved something. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to have a little ritual about it and celebrate this. So that would be another. I'm just trying to think. So it's about, bringing up your vibration. I'm just trying to think what my other top one would be, other than celebrating and listening to your voice.
I think celebrating is so important. And it's something that's we overlook so much. I mean, we're so eager to check things off our lists. So as you said, we can move on to the next thing. It's like we don't even think about, being grateful for the fact that we got this thing done. And being excited about it. And it's funny because so many times I work with my husband, and his office is downstairs, my office is upstairs. So sometimes when I have like something great happens, I get this email inviting me to, be interviewed or something nice.
You run downstairs.
Yes, I run downstairs and I do a happy dance.
Yay! That is so good. And on my calls, I'm forever doing happy dances with people. And I'm like the biggest geek for them. I'll do like a different dance move for each client. But it's so important to get to that point where you're like, wow, I'm actually proud of myself. Like, I'm really excited about this, and not to be stifling yourself because you need to look professional.
Yeah, and it's okay to be proud of yourself, and you should be proud of yourself because you're doing great stuff. So it's not like, I have to be, pretend like this is all normal.
I really believe the whole point of having your own business is the fact that you can act however you want. Work however works for you, and most of all, get you to a point where you're like in ecstasy nearly every day. Like you have joy every day, and you're having fun every day. It is so important. I think when you have fun, someone said to me, fun equals funds. So then the money comes pouring in. So that's and I mean, when you're having fun, your vibration's really high. And I would say when you're feeling low and you know your vibration's low, don't beat yourself up about it. Oh, so many people are like, oh, my vibration's low and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, write a list of things that get you there, get you back there. Go and cuddle your cat. Go for a walk in nature. Write out all of the crap and then burn it. I don't know. Whatever it takes for you to feel better, but just not to feel bad about the fact that you feel bad, because that's not helping.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a downward spiral. It just brings you down farther and farther.
Yeah, it really does. So that'd be my third tip.
Good. So how would you define this concept of being in a higher vibration? I mean, I think for some of us that totally makes sense and it's easy to understand, but I think other people might think, oh, does that just mean I'm having a good day?
Yeah, I would say there's a concept of the different emotions are at different vibrations, and you'll have sort of shame and guilt at the bottom. And apparently Hitler was at guilt. If they measured his vibration, he was at guilt. And then at the top, you have love, joy, and enlightenment. And there's some really amazing statistics that people have done. I think it's a lady whose website, I can't remember now, but they've done statistics, and people that are on a vibration of love or above, I think is what the website is actually, they have such an effect, like physically in the world. If you put them into a particular place in the world, you'll notice the stock markets go up, community becomes better, all of this amazing stuff happens when someone enlightened is around. So when you think of people that you really admire in the world, or people that have been and gone, so I think of sort of the Dalai Lama, who has obviously got a really high vibration. So I would say doing these little celebrations and getting yourself up there, it's really important for you, but it also, when you're shining in that way, it affects so many other people. To put it into words is really hard, but it's literally that, I call it effervescence, almost like the bubbling feeling of like, oh, I'm so excited, like you're going to pop because you're so excited. And just the idea of being up, you know when you're up and you know when you're down. You know when you're feeling high and you know when you're feeling low. And I wouldn't say that it's always good to be high, like you have to have your lows at some point, but it's just go with it. That's all I can say is go with it.
I think that's interesting what you said, because I think the lows do give us also perspective to help us understand when we are in the high, because if you're always high, it would just, how do you know? I mean, it just becomes... Well,
I've had that experience in the last few weeks. I broke up with my boyfriend 2 weeks ago, and I've been fine about it. Like, I'm fine, it's all good. And then today I had an episode which was totally unrelated. I freaked out, I went into panic mode, and everything came pouring out at once. So lows are really important, and to always be thinking I should be high, I should be like in that vibration up there. For me, that's what I've been doing the last 2 weeks, like, yes, but I'm good at being in a high vibration, so I'll stay there. But when you hit then the low, then that can not pay off so well. So yeah, I had that moment, and that makes me realize that you have to honor those emotions of anger and sadness and whatever comes up. You have to go, okay, I'm feeling this way, and actually I'm going to allow that. And actually, the quicker you allow to feel yourself to feel that way, the quicker the emotion leaves. And that is a lesson that I know and I haven't followed over the last 2 weeks.
It's like when you fight it just sticks around so much longer to just kind of get up in your face.
It really does, yeah.
So Fifi, it sounds like you've worked with some really amazing women over the last year. Do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
I would say, obviously, Denise Duffield-Thomas was the lucky... I mean... She's just fabulous, because for me, when I started this spiritual journey, I started with the law of attraction, which is a really accessible way to start. And it's quite scientifically proven, which is nice. So you can sort of be like, oh, I'm being logical with this. And she's so down to earth with the way that she deals with this. And obviously it's about money, which we're all really interested in. And it's like no bars hold, we're just going to talk about all this taboo stuff. So I really liked her. I really like her still. And I would say there are a lot of people, Danielle Laporte, just how soulful she is about how she puts her work out there. And it's amazing to see people like her. I mean, I don't know so much about Gabby Bernstein, because I think for some reason she hasn't come into my periphery yet because I think my work is quite close to hers and I don't want to be drawn off. But people like her and Marie Forleo, these women that are like working in these voids up there, and you're like, wow, I want to be like you one day. But at the same time, I've learned that I used to have a lot of comparisons, even with people like Marie Forleo, and I was like, how can I even compare myself to her because she's amazing? But when you compare yourself, you really are dishonoring your soul and who you are and your purpose in this world, because it's never going to be the same as anyone else's.
Oh, I think that's so important, and it's so easy to fall into the comparison game.
Oh, so easy. I think I was there for about a year. I was like, everyone's better than me and I've made no money and all that sort of rubbish.
And everyone's got more experience and I'm just starting, so who's going to listen to me?
And it's that sort of why, like, you're never going to have anything original, I don't feel, anymore in this world. Like, the only thing that is original is you.
Yeah, you and your energy and the way you present your stuff.
People resonate with different people. Yes. Someone might be like, oh, I hate Marie Forleo. And I'd be like, what? But someone might say that to me and then they'll be like, but I really resonate with so-and-so.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this world, is that you have an energy that unlike anyone else, and people will need to hear a particular message from you only. Even if someone else is saying the same thing, they might not resonate with that and they might not take that message fully on board.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so important to recognize, because everyone is so different, and the way we put our things out into the world is so different because we're all so unique. So it doesn't matter if you're a money coach, and so are 1,000 other women.
Yeah.
It's everyone's different.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look at Denise Duffield-Thomas. She didn't look at Ali Brown and go, oh, she's like so much better than me, I'm not going to do this. She actually went, well, actually, what is my USP, I suppose, which is the law of attraction and money. And she still went out there and did it. And she's doing fabulously. And she has so many raving followers. And she's changed so many people's lives for the better. Like, I bow down to the woman, really, because I was so poor last year. And now I'm not. And, you know, so many other people are saying the same thing, just saying it in different ways.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Fifi, how can other women in business benefit from working with you? You've got a couple of different programs going.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, I don't know when this podcast goes out, but I'm finishing off my business alignment readings at the end of January. And they're like the short, sharp shock that you need, like, to get you into that high vibration and to get you going for the year. And it's just nice reading to come back to whenever you're feeling in that slump. And obviously my get glowing, get going, I can never say it, get glowing and then get going. So it's all about getting you sort of into that luminous place where your vibration's high and you're connecting to your intuition on a level that you've never connected to it before. And then you really get going, because I truly believe when your energy is in the right place and you're aligned and you're in flow, that is when the clients come and the manifesting just gets like crazy and you'll get unbelievable offers. Like, I got my vibration up really high and then I get an email from Holly Wharton saying, oh, would you like to come on my podcast? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So this is it. It's all about getting yourself to that place where opportunities just flow to you. So that's my, let's call it GGGG. It's not short and sharp, is it? It's quite hard to say. And that is available at the moment at a discount, and it will be launching on my birthday, which is March. But I think I probably will, because I'm naughty, I probably will be taking on 3 clients in February, just because I can. But really, the real launch is in March, but we've got, before March, it's at a discount.
Okay, excellent. And then you also have your Define and Align, and that's a single session?
Yeah, so that's my sort of business alignment.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and they're really nice to do, but I do like to be working with people a bit more longer term. But it just depends where you're at and what you're looking for.
Yeah, good. How exciting. So, Fifi, tell us where people can find you online.
At fifiscarlett.com, and that's Scarlett with a double T, because my mother, that's my middle name, and that's how she wrote it. So Scarlett with a double T, fifiscarlett.com. And you can see me over there. I blog there too. And I blog sporadically, but that's because I always go with my intuition and my flow.
Yeah, good. And do you tap into your guides when you're blogging?
I go with inspiration rather than my guides. Okay. I tend to get my fluorite, which is my creative crystal, and just go with what comes up when and what people need to hear. And I hope to do a bit more of tapping into the guys and, okay, what's the message that people need to hear this week? But at the moment, the blogging is really more, I suppose it's for everyone with this work. You're always learning new lessons. So when I'm blogging, that's probably the lesson that I'm learning at the time.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so exciting to speak with you finally.
Yeah, it's lovely to meet properly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/79 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you.